Welcome to Tunneling Today with UCA. This is the podcast where we dig deep into the technical and personal stories of professionals driving progress one tunnel at a time. Whether you're in the field or somewhere underground, this is where we shine a light on what's happening below our feet. You're listening to part 1 of our inaugural episode, a discussion with Youssef Hashash. Stay tuned for part 2, where we discuss how Professor Youssef began experimenting with AI applications and what he envisions for the future.
Welcome to Tunneling Today with UCA for our first episode, our inaugural episode. The stories, innovations, and trailblazers that are driving our tunnel industry forward. I'm your host, Luke Ducey, and I'm excited to be here with Professor Youssef Hashash from the University of Illinois, and we are excited to get things kicked off. I wanted to kind of kick things off, so like a little icebreaker, so just to get us going. So,
very good.
What is your favorite national park here in the States?
Well, I've been to many national parks, and I just love absolutely every one of them. But if I were to pick one, it would be Yellowstone National Park. It's an amazing park. I'm a geotechnical engineer, tunnel engineer, because I love geology. And the geology there is absolutely amazing. From the geysers to the canyons, the lakes, the mountains, absolutely beautiful. And you can spend a really long time there enjoying it. So I encourage everyone to, if you have time, go there and visit it. It's wonderful.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful one. Of the very many in the United States, of course.
Absolutely.
Is it going to blow here in the next couple of years? Or,
Well, there are a lot of articles about it, and it's a part of a super caldera that we know in the geologic time it actually did act. And so we hear a lot about earthquakes being recorded there. But, it's really tough to know, be able to predict.
Yeah, I think I remember a story the other day of some of the animals were leaving Yellowstone, and everyone started saying that's the animals know, but, we'll see.
We will see. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, let's dive in. So I wanted to start with your growing up in Beirut, in Lebanon. I know you grew up with a father who is a hydrogeologist, and kind of how that steered your career and going into the engineering, geotech, environmental, world, because I'm sure he was very influential in how you grew up and everything.
Well, that's very much true. My dad's passion for geology and the underground really rubbed on me, and impressed me. My dad really enjoyed what he was doing, but he also enjoyed bringing it home. When he's out on drill rigs, he comes back, he tells us the stories. But then as we grew older, he made sure we ended up going on these drill rigs. We went, and so fairly young age, I think I was maybe middle school or early high school, I was going from one borehole to another, measuring the depth of the water table. And it was actually in mountainous areas in the summer. And so I had to really watch out for the snakes. And even then, at that time, so that particular area that I'm describing to you happens to be a project. They were looking at the feasibility of building a dam there. And what they did is they built an exploratory adit in, actually, it was in the left abutment, in the sandstone. And I got to go in there while they were. So that was I have to say, my first introduction to tunneling.
I think there's a perk of kind of getting that field experience at a young age that good for, sounds like the UCA award, the Muddy Boots Award. You could have earned that at a young age.
Well, that's actually, sometimes it's underestimated, the value of that. Why? Because now you are seeing the actual practice, what people are doing. In addition, there is, of course, a lot of technical work. There's also the challenge, but also the impact that you have. And so when you see that at an early age, and then you go to school, you know where the end is, or a potential end path. And that can be a great motivator. Helps you focus, understand why you're pursuing what you're pursuing.
So let's talk about coming to the United States. So went to MIT for undergrad, graduate, master's, PhD. So do you want to talk about your time at MIT?
Yeah, I had really an opportunity to come to the States and study. And of course, it was a dream.
Yeah.
And I decided to pursue that dream.
Yeah.
Everything was new to me, from the way the cities function, from the way the food is, culture. So you had to learn all of that. And I had about 3 weeks actually to do that before starting classes in the fall.
Yeah.
I can tell you stories about these, and I consider them all part of that growing and learning as a young person. And it's just a tremendous adventure. Even as an undergraduate, in addition to my classes, there were opportunities to do research.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, you know what? Let me try it. Of course, you also get paid a little bit of money.
Of course. That's always nice.
So that's always good. So I decided to pursue those. And I had an opportunity to work in the digital media lab at MIT. That's where the early days of digital media, we're talking about 80s, mid 80s or so, mid to late 80s. Then I had an opportunity to work on a project where we were studying seatbelt laws, which were new at the time. And so I was eye-opening. And people asked me at the time, why are you doing those? I said, you know what? I want to try areas that seem to be fairly far from my discipline.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, later on turned out to be not that far from what I pursued. It's like, yeah, why not? Let's experience that. And then one of my other projects became more like a really geotechnical project. This was with late Professor Bob Whitman, and he just got a centrifuge and at MIT, and we were testing braced walls and the loads on these struts in a centrifuge, because a centrifuge allows you to scale up without having a full-scale model.
Gotcha.
So my job was, I was the undergraduate assistant to the graduate student, set up the walls, rain the sand, and I had to rain it manually so that I can get a consistent density in the sand throughout the model. So just a range of experiences as an undergraduate, which was absolutely phenomenal. And then I kind of started looking at this, like, you know what, maybe we'll try a little bit the graduate school. Graduate school was fun. There's thesis on probabilistic liquefaction evaluation with Professors Daniele Veneziano and Herbert Einstein.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, oh, you know what? Let's pursue PhD.
Yeah.
And that's when I went ahead and pursued my PhD work as well.
So was that the starting the liquefaction stuff? Is that what the page turner for you and career that you really enjoyed it, and then kind of started focusing on that? Or,
well, even though I did my my master's degree with on liquefaction, my PhD was in a completely different direction. So at the time, the work for the Central Artery, people were starting talking about the Central Artery project in Boston, which was lowering an elevated highway and putting it underground to increase the lanes, reduce pollution, help relieve some of the congestion. But they were looking at the time of doing excavations of unprecedented depth in the Boston area. So at the time, there was a project which was to look at the excavation for the garage at Post Office Square in Boston. And through a collaboration between Professors Whitman and Whittle, they received some funding from there to actually be able to support some research at MIT so that we can understand the behavior of excavations. Yeah. Now, why are we interested in that? We are interested in that because whenever you dig anything, whether it's a tunnel or an open cut excavation, you remove soil, ground moves.
Oh, yeah.
So if I'm in the middle of an urban area, buildings can start moving,
Yep.
and we don't want them to move too much, right? A little bit may be okay, but too much, large movements can be a problem. So in order to do that, we need higher resolution tools.
Mhm.
And at the time, we're looking at using these tools that were gaining traction, finite element modeling.
Yeah.
And with these, people were looking like, okay, so how do we develop these? How do we advance those? So that's my work, was to focus on those, develop these new tools to be able to examine these impacts.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point that you were using the best equipment at the time, to process data and whatnot that you were collecting. But of course, we've come a long way. Of every year, there's something new and fun that comes out, and processing the data aspect. Let's talk about like the software and hardware that you had. So like processing time for the data you were collecting then versus a little bit of like what it is now, and how that has changed.
Well, it's a night and day.
Yeah.
So the machine I was using, it was like the latest, greatest thing.
It was probably how big?
It was a box like this. It's a VAX VMS
Okay.
machine. And in order to, so we would have a lot of the data collection in the field was in fact done manually. And you had to go and wait for people to get the data, plot it, and you get it on these floppy disks, if you remember, the big ones, and then the small ones.
That's right.
And then I get the data, and it takes time, and then you get it, we evaluate it, try to understand it. There's some issues, there's always an issue with the data, right? So try to understand what's going on, analyze, process, change. Nowadays, you can actually pull up your mobile phone and you can look at your data, right? The technology there checks.
Mm-hmm.
So that part was a lot of effort, but then taking that data and then building these numerical models so that we can do simulations. And I was not doing something fancy 3D. We're just doing, with an advanced model, the material model, a 2D section of the excavation. And to run the full sequence of excavation in 2D, it took me around 24 hours. So therefore, if the program crashes, that's a problem, right? You lose a full day. And I didn't have a capability, nowadays you can run it from anywhere.
Yeah.
So what I had to do is I had my trusty Mac SE. I do not know if you know those Macs.
I do not, actually.
And had a little modem. And on the phone line, I don't know if you've heard those noises. I developed a dial-in connection. I would check my analysis in the middle of the night. And I checked, did it crash?
Set an alarm, go check it, wake up.
Absolutely.
Coffee ready just in case something's going on.
That is correct. And so it took me 24 hours. So many years later, you want to guess how long it takes me to run the analysis?
Let's say maybe a few minutes, maybe 10, 15?
More like 1 or 2 minutes.
Oh, really?
This same analysis, it will take you about 1 or 2 minutes.
Enough time to pull your phone and respond to a text, and by the time you look back up, it's already
And there's the analysis. So first, you had to make sure everything is right. Mm-hmm. And of course, I didn't have all this beautiful user interface.
Oh, yeah. Everything's
that
pretty slick now and easy to use.
And you can correct things. I just had to code everything and do text file input.
Yeah.
So really, really seeing the technology, data collection, numerical analysis, just the hardware, the nature of the hardware just changed completely.
Yeah. So you're saying you're using less floppy disks now than you are when you were at MIT?
Maybe no floppy disks. Okay. Well, we moved from floppy disks. You remember the CDs?
Yeah.
And I have also still a collection of those.
Okay, that's
but even those we're now with cloud storage, you can access your information from anywhere and very large data sets.
Yeah.
So a different world.
Yeah, now we have thumb drives for everything. And I think University of Illinois has like a supercomputer or something, like a pretty large one.
We have multiple generations
That's right.
of these supercomputers that we've actually got the chance to use them.
Oh, really? That's fun.
To run large number of analyses, especially when we're trying to characterize uncertainty. We can do that now. At that time, it was very difficult to do.
Yeah. Well, you brought up Professor Whittle, yeah. So I heard through the grapevine that he mentioned you had some interesting hobbies. I'm curious, like, what those hobbies are. Like, I love playing pickleball. I love playing softball. I like, hanging out with friends and playing board games. Like, what type of hobbies is he referring to?
So it's interesting. As I was growing up, in fact, through my dad's friends, I got introduced to the hobby to collecting butterflies.
Oh, okay.
Um, and it was interesting to me.
Yeah, you definitely weren't collecting baseball cards or Pokemon cards. You really were.
In Lebanon, we had soccer. But baseball I didn't know it even existed until I moved to the U.S. And through that, I learned so much about insects.
Yeah.
Of course, I learned about the variety of insects in Lebanon, the butterflies, and from there, I learned how to go to libraries because I was interested in understanding these. So I had to go and borrow books from the library on butterflies, and they were mostly in English. And so that actually greatly improved my English. But then as I moved to different places, I ended up picking up different hobbies, by the way.
Okay.
And so in Boston, ice skating.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I played hockey, intramural hockey.
Gotcha. So that was while you were at MIT.
That's right, while I was at MIT. Then in Texas, I picked up horseback riding.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I see a theme. So each location you're kind of adjusting to the area. Yeah, the Cowboys in Texas.
I had my Stetson hat.
Oh, you went Wrangler.
Oh, absolutely. And I have my boots. So it was lots of fun.
Yeah.
And then in San Francisco, I moved afterwards, and I picked up mountain biking.
Okay, okay. I see where this is all over. Okay, so I'm very curious what Champaign, Illinois hobbies, what you picked up there.
So Champaign, our hobbies there was mostly that's about the time when we started having kids and raised them. So actually, that was our focus for.
That's it. Having a kid is a great hobby to see.
So I had, as the kids get older, I brought in these various hobbies, from teaching them how to ride bikes to taking them hiking and enjoying nature. So we've taken them to lots of parks, and so now as they are now adults, they send me pictures of places they go to. So
they grew up in Champaign then.
Yep. All their life, but then once they finished and graduated and went to college, then
Champaign has a lot of, as someone who's from the Champaign area, the Crystal Lake Park and Anita Purvis and Allerton Park, which I guess is now part of the University of Illinois as well in Monticello.
Yes, we went to all of those. Kickapoo State Park.
Oh, Kickapoo is not far either.
Yep. So we've been to all of these.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so you've been able to mountain bike around here, and then horseback riding while you're catching butterflies. And I don't think have you ice skated in Champaign?
Yes.
Okay.
In Kickapoo.
Okay, nice.
In the winter, when it ices, there are some ponds there. It's actually an abandoned coal mine.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That makes sense for Illinois. Yeah.
Showed the kids where the coal seams are there. And so in a winter there, we take them out and ice skate on the frozen lake. Now that is fun.
Yes. A little dangerous too.
Oh, we make sure.
Okay.
That it's been. Oh yeah, we check how long it's been below freezing for how many days.
Yep.
And then we check with park rangers, and there we go.
There you go. Okay, good. So let's talk about after hobbies. After MIT, you moved to Dallas. So here's where you picked up your horseback riding and your cowboy activities, and so that was a move to start at Parsons Brinckerhoff.
That is correct. So I didn't come here ostensibly to become a cowboy, but that was
don't count it out here. You were doing it.
It was fun though. I absolutely loved it. I came here for my first job, And there was a major project with, it was the PBMK team. PB stands for Parsons Brinkerhoff, MK is Morrison Knudsen. And they were starting to build tunnels for what were to be known as the superconducting super collider. The project, unfortunately, was not completed due to external constraints and issues. From a technical point of view, from a tunneling point of view, it was an amazing success. They were doing daily excavation race where just set records there. So it was phenomenal. I learned so much about tunneling, TBMs, tunnel boring machines.
Yeah.
And so that's where I got my serious start professionally in tunneling.
Yeah. What was that like? So, I mean, your first job, all the feelings. UCA has a lot of young members. Can you talk about like that first initial feel of starting the job and going to work the first day?
See, when you're in school and you're taking all these courses, even though I had actually experience with in the field beforehand, you think you understand the connections, but when you come to the first job, there's so many new things, so many different things.
It's like you got all those butterflies built up.
Oh my gosh. I was like so excited. And sometimes maybe my more senior colleagues, it is fun. It's good. But, maybe there are other things. I said, no, I love this. So I've spent lots of time. I was able to see how I can apply what I've learned. For example, I learned a lot about numerical modeling for excavations. Actually, I had the opportunity within my first 3 days to develop models for the tunnels that we were doing here. So for young folks who are now coming up through the ranks, I always say, you get an opportunity to do an internship, go out there and do it. You get an opportunity to go and work in the field, do it. On a drill rig, go there. Inside a tunnel, go there. When you see things and also talk to the folks who are doing the work.
Correct. Yeah. You want to learn from them. They're the ones who are a lot of lessons learned, and even safety side of asking people who are in the field of what to do, even just like the PPE and, wearing layers and everything. It's good to get their perspective.
And of course, and I tell them not to wear a tie.
That's right. Yeah, that would get caught up in the augers, and it's a whole thing. Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not a good thing to.
You want to don't have too clean of a hard hat either. You want to scuff it up a little bit, put some stickers on it.
And your boots, the brand new boots, muddy them up before go down there. Otherwise, they'll know that you're a rookie, and then you could be
exactly.
Fun.
Yeah, you brought up. There's a lot of interns. At least where I worked, we've had 3 interns turn full time, so it's a good testimonial. Kind of that in the sense that it's good to get an internship which can turn into a full-time position, and usually those interns get some good time in the field, again, like learning and getting time working behind a drill rig and learning that experience, especially some for behind a drill rig when you come out of college and you expect to just look at a boring log and you don't know where this end value comes from, and you don't know the collection that goes along with it. It makes you appreciate it when you go out in the field and you're counting blow counts and the winds blowing and the conditions. So there's a lot of data collection there, and that's great to carry over when you're back at your office and can kind of process that. So what was it like collecting all this data for the Super Collider project, and what was the data collection that you had to do for that?
So for the Super Collider, there were several major efforts. One was an extensive laboratory program. And this is the first time I learned about a GDR, Geotechnical Data Report. I didn't know what these things were. And you get these big folders of data. Nowadays, we do a lot of PDF files.
That's right. Yes.
And just, I now have to look at the data in a way that I actually did not think of it this way. You'll see there is variability. It's not perfect.
No.
It's incomplete. And then you try to pull all of that together to try to develop a framework to address, say, the engineering behavior of the Taylor Mar or Eagle Ford Shale. Now, the other data sets that were being collected, They had built, for example, a major exploratory shaft. It was an oval. For some reason, at that point, I thought all shafts must be circular.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's like,
what's going on here?
That's what happened. This is an ellipsoid, not a circle.
Yeah.
So, but it turns out there are advantages to those shapes. And then they had monitoring to understand the behavior. And that's where I started developing an understanding. How do I first build my knowledge about the material I'm working with? And the challenge and the fun of our profession is that we do not get to choose the material we work with.
Correct. Yes. And that's sometimes the joy of you don't know what you're getting into, and you never know whether you're in a fault zone or a tough alluvium or something. That's
and that's what I love about it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of times students ask me, so on this, what do we do? It's like, it depends.
Yeah.
And I have to explain to them, I actually have ideas, but the problem is it really, really depends. It's not that I do not know. What the circumstances, and understanding those circumstances, collecting that data during the investigation phase and then during the construction phase, seeing the performance, seeing the real world issues that you've been only studying it in theory. It's a big, big difference. I saw a block failure, for example, and I only studied it in class, but seeing it out there on a project you're working with, it's like,
yeah.
So it can happen.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, there's also the sense that like when you're putting a GDR together, you're not able to, in an ideal world, you have a 1 mile long tunnel and you're doing a boring every 10 feet, but that's not always the case. The funding's not there. You usually got to spread them out and you got to kind of interpret that data between processing that data and trying to find a balance when you're doing these GDRs or a GBR, a geotechnical baseline report.
So that actually is an important part of our profession.
Oh, yeah.
Is that we do not rely on a single quantity or a single type of information. We have a variety of information. We can have a drill head, the borehole. We can have CPT, for example. We have geophysical measurements. We have visual observations. And we have
historical boring,
other geology.
True.
History of the area, engineering geology, history of construction. And our job as engineers, our brain, we try to pull all that together to interpret, to come up with first there's the GDR where you're not supposed to put any interpretation.
That's right.
And then you have the GIR, interpretive report. And then you have a GBR, which is something for baselining. It's actually a contractual instrument and then how you select where your baseline is. Of course, we know it's a fairly complex process between many parties, but there's a judgment. That's where you synthesize all that information and you try to say, okay, here's my best interpretation, here's my gap of knowledge, uncertainty, etc. And then we always have to work with incomplete information, right?
Yeah, you have to be upfront about that too. You can't say you're going to be in this sand the whole way. There's going to be no gravel or, there's going to be, there's no fault or anything here. It's the unknown.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about moving stuff from Dallas to San Francisco. So on our way to mountain biking, assuming you didn't mountain bike your way all the way there. But you worked on some pretty big projects there. So Big Dig and the Muni turnaround. That was still with Parsons Brinkerhoff.
With Parsons Brinkerhoff, I had an opportunity to move there to their office in San Francisco. And I land there and they say, okay, here's some projects for you. And one of the first projects, they say, well, there is this tunnel that is being built. It's called the Muni Metro Turnaround Project. So
did you just raise your hand? You're like, I'm in. You didn't even have to do anything. You're just...
I don't remember, but when they told me about it, I said, yes, absolutely. And it was a really fun project, challenging in that they had the BART tunnels already built and they were trying to extend the Muni Metro from the Embarcadero to turn around, from the Embarcadero station to turn around along the Embarcadero to the south. And so they were going to go with the tunnel before they go to the surface, with the streetcars. And so that meant you had to tunnel within feet of the existing operating BART tunnels.
Wow.
And of course, so what's the concern is you have a problem, right?
Yes.
And of course, we're tunneling pretty close to the shoreline, meaning I have also an infinite supply of water if something goes a little bit off. And you don't want to disrupt the commute into San Francisco. That would really make headlines, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We want to try and stay out of the headlines.
Right. So Parsons Birkenhoff was working at the time for BART to monitor their tunnels and understand the interactions. They had at the time had done some studies, theoretical studies, numerical studies to understand that interaction, but they wanted to, of course, monitor, understand what's going on in the field.
Underground, above ground, like piezometers and
So they had some of those, but actually at the time, first time they installed these remote instruments. It's called the L-level instruments that were connected via a modem.
Okay.
And then you can dial in that information. And this is where I learned about the interactions between different engineering outfits, and also try to understand always the source of ground movement, right, when you're tunneling. They were doing there a compressed air tunnel, which is something we probably never see rarely see anymore.
Yeah. That's pretty rare.
And so in a compressed air tunnel, of course, you have to adjust to as if you're going diving, right? You have to have
adjust to the
compression. The safety issues become much more amplified there. So I had opportunities to go in there a lot to understand what's going on. But also we had to go at night into the tunnels during the shutdown, the maintenance period, which was from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Again, I'm sure there was some coffee involved. And
so I actually had to, I would drive in, park the car.
At least there was probably no traffic at those hours, right?
You're absolutely right. Plenty of parking.
Sure, to look at the positive side, late nights, no traffic though.
Yes. So go in there, go with the surveyors. We had to do visual inspection, check that the tunnel, which is made out of bolted liner plates, remain operational well. We looked at the conversions, confinement of the tunnels, and then we also had these electronic levels that would allow us to understand what's going on with the tunnel.
So this was a lot of data collection then, correct? Or is it more observations?
It's both.
Okay.
So this is where our job always is to put the puzzle together. And at the time, of course, the engineer who actually was on the client side who was doing that, his name is a very good friend of mine, Dimitrios Kotsoutas. I had to learn a lot from him.
Oh, yeah.
Here I was the young engineer, and he had many, many years of experience. So trying to understand those interactions, visual observations, quantitative data. So we had all of that. And we ended up with a very unique measurement. And that's where you always want to take advantage of these situations. An earthquake has happened. And then what happened there is that we captured the movement of the tunnel as a result of that earthquake.
That doesn't happen all the time, and very unique. I'm sure there was some good lessons learned from that. And
we understood, because now you see that actually, there is a wave, actually, because you saw that wavy, that deformations that happened there. So
awesome. Was it field observations late nights, and then, during the days you'd start to enter some of that data and kind of process it, I guess?
Of course, you can recognize that I didn't show up at 9 a.m. in the morning to the office, okay? So
yeah.
I would be straggling late, coming in late, and my colleagues would say, "Oh, so you had a really long night last night."
Right, yeah.
When you do a site visit, it's important you write your daily field reports.
Yep.
So I document these and then combine those with the measurements, and then we would develop reports and then send them to our client, who's BART, because they're the agency had hired us at the time.
Gotcha.
Now, and as long as things were within the tolerable level and we're able to correlate them well, and fortunately everybody did an absolutely fantastic job there.
Yeah. Can you talk about a little bit of, so, that was probably pen and paper. Could you talk about maybe the use of like iPads and in-field instruments that we have now and how that would have like changed your field work doing that, especially with kind of, where we are now?
Well, let's take something simple that now we take absolutely for granted. Photos.
So a lot of quick sketches.
A lot of
gotta
sketches,
get scale.
and you have water leaking in.
That's right. Yeah, your logs are all.
Yeah, and nowadays, think of it as sort of the time to document, to develop a document that you can share with. We have been able to really, really reduce that time frame. Take a survey, right? It would take you sometimes 2 weeks. You send the surveyors, they have to process the data, send it back to you. It takes about 2 weeks. Now we have total stations, nearly instantaneous. You get the information. Now that makes a huge difference in how quickly we're able to see the response and how quickly we're able to act. You see, we're not collecting data just for the sake of collecting data. We're collecting data to understand what's going on during construction, and more importantly, see if action is needed. Now, most of the time, things are going well, and sometimes people say, so why are you monitoring? Well, we recognize, in fact, we would love the project to be very boring, meaning we don't have any problems. But when you have an issue, you understand, you can very quickly get that information. It's collected. Now on people's phone, you get alerts.
Yep.
You can pull the graphics, see what's going on, and within a very, very short period of time, you've actually had some handle on what's going on. And sometimes with instruments, we detect things before people on the ground are seeing them.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, going back to Yellowstone, I mean, how many seismometers
there's a lot
that they know and can predict. So, I mean, it's amazing the tools that we have now for instruments.
It's very important.
Yes.
Very useful.
Yes. And great data to be able to backtrack that and see what was going on before construction, during construction, after construction, especially in settlement issues too.
Right. You don't want a lot of concerns since we're often say our urban construction.
Yes.
We're in an urban area, the loss of buildings, utilities, etc. And you really cannot afford to disrupt utilities. In the garage at Post Office Square at the time, there were fiber optic lines that transmitted data in the financial district of Boston.
Oh. Yeah, you don't want to mess with those.
In fact, the penalty for disrupting it was really, really expensive at the time. You can imagine, right?
Yes.
So we deal with that on a daily basis in our practice. And so what you're trying to see if you can catch the problem early. Mm-hmm. We would love to eliminate it, but at least eliminate issues. But without that monitoring, we would be having many more problems.
Yeah, it seems like in dense urban areas, a lot of before a tunnel project happens, half of it is the utility relocations and planning ahead to see if there's any deep foundation structures or drilled piers for buildings when you're working around it. So definitely something to investigate. I know there's a lot of stuff trying to focus on like right of way access and work there, but
amongst many issues.
Yes, yeah. So leaving San Francisco, you've been on the East Coast, been on the West Coast, been in the South. So now you're like, I really want to get to the Midwest. And I want to be smack dab in Illinois. So let's talk about your move to the University of Illinois to start with the Civil and Environmental Engineering group. So how was that? How did that transition go? How did it come about?
I mean, of course, it went smoothly. I moved to the Midwest in December or January.
Oh, yeah. So left San Francisco for that. Yeah.
So there was a little bit of a difference in the weather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, had to buy some coats and some of the socks.
I didn't realize things could get that cold, even though Boston was cold. But after it's been a while before I went back and was like, oh, it actually can get cold.
Yeah, that's right.
The move to University of Illinois was, again, another challenge and an immense, wonderful opportunity. Joined a top-rated civil engineering program with amazing faculty across many, many areas, not only within civil, but also other areas. And that actually was important for my collaborations. Tremendous resources, amazing students. We as faculty members, it's really our students who do the work, as you very well know. It's my students always in a meeting when they hear me say, you know what, I was thinking about this, and I was like, okay, what kind of idea does he want us to?
Do they raise their hand or they like duck under the table?
They're just kind of like, okay, But I can tell you in moving to Illinois, teaching really taught me a lot. I understood the material much better. But teaching ended up permeating everything I do. Even in my research work with my students, it's mentoring. It's teaching, interacting with colleagues. What really was very nice after about 5.5 years working in industry is that it really guided what kind of research I do. Because I saw the issues and I was like, it'd be interesting to address this issue. Interesting to address that. I'd have to say probably every one of my research projects was inspired by something I ran into in industry. And so that led to things that I'm very grateful that my colleagues out there found to be useful, several of which have been adopted in industry, all thanks to a great support system, fantastic students. It was a little bit interesting being separated from a project delivery. But project delivery itself taught me to be more efficient as a researcher. So that was an amazing, a really nice combination.
Yeah, I can imagine going from consulting to academia was definitely a transition, and hopefully you had less time getting up at the 2 a.m. mark to do field work or any of that stuff. I guess maybe grading some papers or something late at night, but maybe not doing those late night tunnel shifts.
Well, why I didn't do these late night tunnel shifts, they say as a faculty member, you get to choose when to work your 80 hours a week.
Okay. So you still had some late nights in there. And probably today to this day too, you're still a very very busy guy.
Yeah, I've been up since 5 a.m. today.
Okay.
You've been listening to Tunneling Today with UCA, where the stories are deep and the insights are deeper. Stay tuned for part 2, where we discuss how Professor Youssef began experimenting with AI applications and what he envisions for the future. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss a beat from the world of underground construction.